Hi, it's John from Under the Table Hot Sauce. I'm here with my friend, the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow.
Yeah, what's up, JB?
Nah, nothing.
It's been a hot summer, and for all your barbecue needs, you can go to underthetablehotsauce.com. 13 unique flavors to choose from, created and bottled in a Long Island kitchen. Underthetablehotsauce.com. Let's go chow, JB.
Let's do it.
All the flavor, twice the burn.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence. Collision Specialists. 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence.
Elm Logistics. For all your logistic needs, call 631-299-3595. That's 631-299-3595. Elm Global Logistics. Pride, performance, and partnerships.
Tommy Cairo. And when I walk down that aisle this Saturday night at the ECW Arena, I want each and every one of you to rise, get up off your feet, and pay homage to my new manager, the Virgin Princess Angel.
Get through to you somehow. If just for a short time, it wasn't my fault. I just couldn't win. The things that I said, they hurt you again. And if you don't, let me down easy. Always on the run, with a backs up against it all. No need to lose your mind, so just let it pass on. It wasn't my fault, I just couldn't win. The things that I said, they hurt you again. And if you don't, let me down easy.
Good evening and welcome to Wrestling Rewind. I am your host, Angel Amoroso, and this evening I am joined by my good friend, Iron Man Tommy Cairo. Tommy?
Hey, what's happening, Angel? How are you today?
Good. And we are here to actually redo an interview. You recently received a Lifetime Achievement Award from ISPW.
Yes.
And we did an interview about all that, about all your achievements in professional wrestling from start to finish. So we'd like to get into doing that again. So without any further wait, let's get right into this, Tommy.
Absolutely. I'm ready to go. It's my story. I should know it, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to go here by pictures.
Yeah, and that helps make remember more that way.
It really does. We find it,
You know.
it's very helpful in telling a story. So here we start. Do I start at the bottom or do I start here at the top?
You were good.
Okay.
That's perfect. Okay, so here I am. Well, what we'll do is I have to go a little before that to tell you about, how I got exposed to wrestling, because of course
Yes,
I don't have pictures.
start at the very beginning. How did you start? Who were you influenced by? Who took you to your first match? Who were your favorite wrestlers? How
Yes,
did you
and then-
finally break into the business? Your experiences. We would like to know from ECW to NWA and beyond. So, I'm going to sit back and just absorb everything you're saying. So just take it away and just tell me everything.
At 8 years old, I've been watching wrestling. I don't remember. I just must have turned on the TV. Bam. So from 8 years old till about almost 10 years old, I had been watching wrestling on my own. My uncle was a fan. It was just something that it caught my eye on TV. So fast forward almost to 10 years old, I'm sitting in the living room and I'm watching the TV and I'm watching wrestling, and it's Ray Morgan doing a commentary from Washington, D.C. The big match for the night is a tag match between Bruno Sammartino and what was his kayfabe cousin, Antonio Pugliese, a.k.a. Tony Parisi. So they announced the heels. I think it was Baron Cicluna and King Curtis. And the heels come out to the ring, and they announced first Antonio Pugliese. And he comes out to the ring alone. And then they're looking around, and they start to announce Bruno, and they're like, he's not here. Must have missed his flight. That's the information that we're hearing. So at that point, what do the heels do? They put the boots to Antonio Pugliese, beat him down. All of a sudden, you see Ray Morgan turn his head. What? It's Bruno. He just came in from the airport. His tie's hanging. He's got a suitcase with a shirt sleeve hanging out. Really cool stuff. Well, he comes in the ring, and of course, they're back to back. They run the heels off. I'm screaming. My mother comes running in the living room. She's like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "Bruno." She's, "Oh my God, you're really making me nuts with this stuff." So instead of fighting me, she decided to support me, called my uncle up and said, "Do me a favor, take this kid to the matches." Now, at the time, we lived in Belleville, New Jersey, a short hop, skip, and a jump to Newark, which had the Newark Armory. It was one of the armories that they used back then, like they did often. And he took me to see Bruno. He put me on his shoulders, and we followed Bruno leaving the ring, and I patted him on the back, and he turned around and made eye contact with me. Wow, that's it. Bruno looked at me. I think he sweated. He sweat on my magazine. I think that's Bruno's sweat. I was gone. And fast forward, Phil Worley, who we did a lot of things together in the business, promoting and so on. They don't rerun those. Those TV episodes, they don't get rerun. They either don't show them or you move on. It's old news already. So we know that day, two idiots like us sitting in our houses a town away, watching the same thing. I haven't come across anybody else that I told that story to who recollects it. So that's how I got bitten by the wrestling bug. So now we'll fast forward to this picture. All along I'm watching wrestling. That goes without saying. And that was me in the Junior Olympics. This was my dad, was my example. So you're that young, like I was at 2, and saw that bodybuilder. I'm holding the magazine. I already had the connection. That's what I want. I'm going to lift weights. My father had a big crate, a wooden milk crate of magazines, bodybuilding and weightlifting magazines. And I would go in the garage and sit there for hours. I got to tell that story about the little kid. There was an advertisement, this little stocky kid in the back. I don't know exactly what it was, but I got mad. I'm like, look at this guy. Who's he? I'll beat him. I'll be there. That'll be me there, So I already had the volition to move in that direction. All right, so you can go to the next one. The other way up, yeah. That's where we worked out, okay? Not your padded, mirrored gym. In fact, the gutters were on the inside, up where the ceiling meets the ceiling meets the wall, because it was a stadium. This is a concrete stadium with a straight back, and your 45-degree angle where the people sat That's underneath. That's where we train. I was sitting in the parking lot of the high school. When you're looking out, that's what you see, the front of the stadium from the parking lot of the high school. So I was standing there looking at where I'm going to be, because I'm totally infatuated even with the weightlifting. And I'm standing there and this kid's talking to me and I'm not really listening. So he says, did you hear what I said? I said, no, what? He says, well, are you going to the dance tonight? I'm like, what are you talking about? What dance? Every Friday night there's a dance. I said, you know what, bro? Tonight, while you're out there dancing at 7:30, I'll be up there in that stadium lifting weights. And he probably thought I was nuts, but like I thought he was nuts. Like, I'm not going to no dance. I'm going to lift freaking weights in a leaking, dirty, dusty building. This place was there because we had an Olympic champion in our town. You'll see him in a couple, I think in a couple pictures coming up, the team pictures. And because of his, renown, we had a stadium gym to work out. There he is, Stoker Paulie. 3 times he was in the Olympics. That's however many years that is. I used to think it was every 4, but I don't know, it's every 2 certain sports. But that guy right there was about 5'6", 198 pounds with a 20-inch arm, and he would help anybody and everybody. The most humble guy you ever want to meet. And that gym for 20 years is a place where you went to become a man, and then you became a better man. So it's iconic in our town. There's nobody that did. You either lifted weights or did drugs, or you did drugs and lifted weights. That's the way it was. But great times, experiences, and set you up for life, knowing how there I am getting. I'm in a clean in a competition where I won the regionals, and that's a trophy for it. Right next to it. So at this point, I'm like 16 or so, and I'm going to these meets on the weekends, and I'm doing martial arts, and I'm wrestling in high school, and I'm watching wrestling and going to the matches whenever I could go. I snuck out to them a couple times when IWA came to New York and challenged Vince McMahon. We were blown away when it just came on TV. We were like, what's this? We all knew who the guys were because we read the magazines, but we had no way to see them because all you got was the WWF programming. And now this came on, which was a similar feeling to when Southwest started showing up on TV. We were like, wow, this is great, because we were fed a steady diet of Vince's father's product and later Vince. So this gentleman right here to my left, Rene Gabay, we were sent by the town to the Junior Olympics in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1974.
How old were you here?
So 74. I was born in 58, 68, 78, what? Wait. I said 58, 68, 15. 15 years old. I'm skinny, but look at the little knot around my knee. The muscles were starting to grow because I was lifting these weights. But the type of lifting I was doing in competition didn't really give you a physique. And I got tired of that, which is why I eventually broke into bodybuilding. So you can go up that. And that gentleman there is no longer with us, but we were sent there together, and I'll never forget it. It was an awesome time. And there you see me with I don't know what that is in my head, some kind of mullet, and that's my dad to my left, Bobby Giordano, another near Olympian. And then on my right are 2 other guys. That's how we rolled. We traveled. We wore our T-shirts. I don't know why we didn't have ours on. And we went to these team meets and started beating Bob Hoffman's crew, which was Bob Hoffman owned and founded York Barbell that made all the weights. And he was like, who are these guys in these yellow shirts? How are they winning? Because we were good. We had the best talent. And that was some kind of like outing where we went and spoke or something. And this is, another trophy. Now, this building, we had moved out of the stadium temporarily and went here, which was a rec house. Eventually, we ended back in the other building now upstairs instead of downstairs. So it moved around a little bit. They never left us without a place to go because we had a team that was preparing for meets. They can't be shut out of their gym. We had the key. Thanksgiving, me and my dad, we eat, we go down there, we work out, walk across the field, and get the key and open it up, and you smell that dungeon-like odor of concrete. Never forget, it sticks in your head, you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds
we can
great.
go. We can move on from there. Look, yeah, it was, and this is another team trophy, just another team shot, just to show you know we were a traveling team. And look at the guy. See the big guy with the big arms with the white shirt and on the bottom. Well, up above him
Yeah.
is me. What looks to be like a Jufro. You know what I mean? And not to be inappropriate, but that's a funny way to say it. But you couldn't even get your hand in my hair, and that didn't last forever though. And that's our complete team with you know the gentleman that we lost. All great guys, you know, fun. But what they used to do, bodybuilding didn't have its own day and its own show. After the Olympic lifting, the bodybuilding came out. They put a little light bulb, and these guys stood on a black stage with plywood behind them.
This is the Jufro that you're
Yeah, look at that
referring
thing.
to?
I think the water rolls right off it. It's incredible. And then, like in grammar school, I had straight hair, so I don't know. Weird things must have happened to my body, you know.
Right.
So right there, I'm, you know, done with Olympic lifting and just kind of bodybuilding now. It was about 160 pounds there. This is my first competition. So when people say to me, when I show them pictures of me at 250, and they say, "Oh, steroids." Well, first of all, I just took second place to a Mr. America guy that probably used steroids at that point, and for that show, 10 plus years, he was about 198 pounds, but shorter than me. But he couldn't beat my conditioning. But they gave it to him because he was more experienced and he was a higher level competitor. But in my opinion, natural on that day, I was the better athlete. But politics play a part. You can see the trophy there. I took second. You know, and you know I didn't use any drugs at that point. You know, and that's the key. When you got a background like that, you get more out of it if you do use them, and you don't have to use as much because pretty much took your body to the limit naturally. That's the only way it's going to do you any good. So this is preparation for the Mr. New Jersey. And I got to tell this story quick. The year before, 1982, I was just lifting weights. I was not a bodybuilder. I had not competed yet. We went to the Mr. New Jersey in the same building I was going to win it a year later, and sat in the audience, and we smuggled beers in. The prejudging is in the afternoon. So we're sitting there drinking beer, and a kid comes out that I know, and I see him, and I go, shit, I could beat him now. I'm not even a bodybuilder. You know, and that's a bold boast. And the guys sitting with me, they're like, yeah, you're sitting here drinking beer. You didn't even compete yet. You're going to win that next year? Yes. What I did was I had to qualify first at another smaller meet just to go into the Mr. New Jersey. I went there. I placed like whatever, I think maybe second. I don't remember. And then I went to the HERE Institute where they would dip you in a tank to do your body fat. I was scheduled to be in the light heavyweight. So 176 stops the middleweight, which I ended up being, and it goes up to 198. So I wouldn't be the biggest and heaviest. I wouldn't be at the limit of 198. It would be about 188. So I'm good. I'm ready to go. The guy says, keep up doing what you're doing. We'll check you one more time. Then I find out that this guy, Casey Kacharik, who had 8 years experience on me, had already won the junior Mr. USA and the junior Mr. America. He's going in my weight class. I just used common sense and I said, there's no way I'm going to beat him at 188 pounds with the experience he has. So I dropped down to 176 3/4 pounds. When I told the guy what I was going to do at the Institute, he said, I'm not co-signing that, bro. He says, your body fat will be just at about normal body function. Any lower, you know, things can happen. System shut down. You don't want that. Whatever. So right here is prior. I'm still not in a complete contest shape, still holding a little water. And from there, I dropped down. I was in and out of the sauna, dropped down and made the 176 limit and beat 32 of the best guys, many of them returning several years to try to get to the top spot. And I walked in there. So I went to see a guy that owned the gym to ask him, you know, I needed some advice. When he saw me that day and saw my posing routine, I looked at the guy, Jose Guzman, who's ahead of me, and like he looked like Hercules. I'm like, I ran out to watch him pose, and I was still hadn't posed yet. Or maybe I posed already. Yeah, I came out, I said, I got to go see him. And like in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to win this. I'm lucky if I get a trophy. So here I am sitting, waiting for the results. And the guy next to me that I had asked for advice, the guy that I thought was going to win was his guy. He goes, you know, you're going to win, right? I'm like, what? Like, don't even play with me. Don't be stupid. I know I'm not going to win. He says, bro, your conditioning is beyond anybody in there. So they call up, all right, for middleweight honors. In 5th place, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get anything. Maybe I would have got 5th. 4th place, Joe Smith from Atlassian. I'm like, now I know I'm not getting none. 3rd place, so-and-so. And I'm like, I got my head down. I'm like, this sucks, man. I really thought maybe I could win this thing. 2nd place, and the winner of the 1983 middleweight Mr. New Jersey from Giordano's gym, Tommy Cairo. I'm like, what? He goes, get out there. And so I won. One shot, first time. A year before that, I had never stepped on a stage, but I picked it up quick. And, you know, a lot of people doubted me. Rumors going around, but I did it. And the kids that were training at the gym and were a part of that whole process, they refer to the year that Cairo won the jersey. That's what they say. They remember that, the year that Cairo won the jersey. Like, to be a big shot to those kids was awesome because I was really unaware of it until I heard it. And that is the key. Be humble. Okay. Yep. So that was, unfortunately, I didn't add a picture from me winning the Mr. New Jersey. I will, but this is the Mr.
This was
America.
down at 175 around?
No, this is now 2 years later at the Mr. America, and I weigh about 208 here.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
And as you can see, I'm not even flexing, and you know, it was there. So I was happy with that. I was a top 10 finalist. And then here we go to 1989, which is the very last time I stepped on stage. I have a little bit more muscle here. I'm 198 pounds. I had to spit to make the limit on the scale. And that was the Gold's Classic, and I won the light heavyweight division. So that's my last. So all along these years, you know, you can show this one. This just shows you the kind of shape I walked around in most of the time, not even getting ready for competition.
You look like Rambo.
Yeah, you know what? And guess what? You know why that thing is on my head? I was doing sit-ups with a 100-pound plate. My feet under the machine. Behind me was a column. The dump weight was back there. And I would lay back and pull it across my body, over my head, and put it on my waist. Well, I leaned it, but I didn't lean it right, and it just fell down like this, busted my head open. And that's why there's a butterfly bandage on my head.
I see that.
Yeah.
All right.
So let me see. Let's stop there for 1 second. So again, all along, I'm still interested in wrestling. You know, I'm thinking, you know, maybe I would like to do it, you know. So this is, let me think. So it would be 87, 88, no, 88, 89, 90, 91. That's when I was there. This is going to be right around 1989. So that last picture you saw, I was in training while I was on this building. That's the North Legal Center. So, you know, there's a story that goes with that with the wrestling. So let's think about this. I'm bouncing on the weekends. I'm in the apprenticeship program, going to school 2 nights a week, and I'm working 40 plus hours, and I'm going to start my wrestling training. So at this point, I just begun. I started training in 86. So by the time that picture 89, I had already broken into the business. So in 1986, a little bit prior, I saw an article in Wrestling Eye magazine about the EWA. So I called them up. So that was 96. So I had already been in the Mr. America contest. So I called up. There was a number. I was like, wow. Called up and I expressed my interest. They blew me off. I was off the phone in seconds. Okay, no big deal. So I keep going about my business. You know, I go into Mr. America in 1995. Shortly afterward, when I read that article, I saw that they advertised a show outside in what they called the Wet Banana Sports Complex, which happened to be on Gary Capetta's parents' pier in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. Now, go back to about 15. I had met Gary when I was, hanging around my high school. I would, see that when they came, I would be hanging around seeing who I could take pictures of or who I could, I wanted to see what they were doing in the locker room. I didn't really care about the wrestling at that point. So I met Gary. He goes, listen, you got any friends that would want to come? I said, yeah, I got one friend. He's a wrestling fan. He says, all right, about 6:45, come around to this door in the back of the high school, which was my high school, and I'll let you in. He led me into the locker room, me and my buddy. We walked straight through the locker room, and what you saw back then was typical guys sitting in their boxer shorts, playing cards, and smoking cigars. And they just, because I was with Gary, so they weren't going to question it. I just walked through and, I said hello, like, hey guys. And we went into the room and auditorium. So, now me fast forward going to see these people. So I show up a little bit earlier than the show start, and I got a tank top on, and I was in great shape as I always was. And they're looking over, and I see at the time I didn't know it was Ted Petty, but he was there, and Jimmy Ryan and Murdy Galam and Dennis Galam. They ran the EWA, and one, I think it was Jimmy Ryan, came walking over. Like, I just, I had this. I was just, standing there. First of all, I already saw 1 or 2 matches, and wow. Okay. So I don't want to be too critical. So Jimmy Ryan saunters over, and he goes, hey, wow. He goes, you're in some shape. I said, thank you. I said, just came off the Mr. America contest. He said, well, did you ever think about breaking into the wrestling business? I said, yeah. I called these people. They treated me like an idiot. And that was it. He goes, well, who was it? I go, you. He goes, what? I said, yeah, I called you. Different story now, right? And I was a little brazen because of what I looked like. And I had wrestling amateur, and I had a martial arts, and I was already doing this shit in my yard, just not in a ring. I had my own federation, like we all might have done, but I knew that it wouldn't take much for me to get acclimated. So he said, well, would you like to, we're running a little training center. Would you like to be a part of it? I said, well, I'll tell you the truth. If it's anybody that I saw tonight, except for one guy in a mask, the Blue Max, I think I could teach them. I'll be honest with you. And let's face it, I look better than them. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. So, he said, well, as a matter of fact, you mentioned the guy in the blue mask. His name is Ted Petty. So there you go. I lucked out. I wound up training with Teddy. Not real long. And in the ring that we had to rinse run water on the canvas because it was like 120 degrees in the summer. The canvas was like burn you. So if you go up a little bit, you'll see the beginning of my training. I don't think we passed it yet, right? No, that's more construction, right? Or a little bit. That's a little bit after I broke in, but that's okay. Right here, you could see the log water slide or whatever at the top of that picture. If you can bring it up a little more, the other one, yep. Keep coming. There you go. So there we are in the ring, and there's the ride in the background. Okay, so I'm out there and I'm working out with this kid. Barnyard Brewster was going to be his gimmick. Unfortunately, I think he worked once at the Sussex County Horse and Farm Show, and that was it for him. But now you got to realize I haven't seen Gary yet, and I don't even know yet that this is his peer. So while I'm out there, Gary Capetta, I look out and I see Gary Capetta. I'm like, I'm probably 60 pounds heavier, at 50 pounds heavier at this point in a few years. And he goes, Tommy Cairo, is that you? I go, yeah. He said, what are you doing here? I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, my parents own the pier. And that, they're running this little show here. I said, wow, that's great. So we're going along, couple weeks into the training, doing pretty good, catching on. And who shows up but Tom Savoldi, Tom Fernini. He comes over. He's got the cigar. He goes, "Hey, kid." He goes, "Come over here." He goes, "I want you to take this business card. I want you to come up to East Lyme, Connecticut." I said, "For what?" He goes, "What do you mean for what? Did you get hit in the head too hard already?" "To wrestle." I go, "I'm training." I couldn't even. He's like, "You're fine." I was probably better than most of the guys he was using at that point. So I said, "Okay." Now I'm faced with. Now it was a good while off, so I knew maybe I could get my stuff together. I had no gear yet or anything, So Gary says to me, "Yeah, I heard that. That's great." I said, "Great." I said, I'm still training. They're sending me up there. I don't know. "You'll be fine. I've been watching it. You'll be fine." I said, "Okay." He says, "You have any? You don't have any boots or anything yet?" Right? I said, "No. I'm in like my 4th week here." I couldn't afford the $100 that B&A boot shop wanted. Paris, Arkansas, B&A boot shop. You trace your barefoot on a piece of paper with a pen, and you send it in. Gary peels off a crisp $100 bill and gives it to me. Says, "Don't worry about it. Here's the address. Trace your foot. Send it out. And here's the other address to K&H, Carl and Hildegard. They were the first ones and only ones back then to make your gear." So within 6 weeks, I had my trunks, my gear. I take my butt up to East Lyme, Connecticut, work with Colonel De Beers. Now, if you go up forward a little further, you'll see my first match from the Savaldis. The other way. Keep going. Past that. Keep going. I don't know why that shouldn't be yet. All right, that's still training. But you remember there was a picture that had the AWA. There it is. See the AWA banner in the back?
Yes.
So, although the Savaldis cheated me out of $40, now this is something I tell these guys. I was making $100 from the start. Yes, I started with Davey O'Hannon. His partner was Pete Reeves. I was introduced to him because he was my wife's best friend was his aunt. So at 12, when I found out that Pete Reeves, who had the article I remember in the magazine, his aunt was my wife's best friend. I'm like, I was over there bugging him at 14, So now fast forward, I'm working for these guys like the very beginning. Oh, I think it was Over the Top or whatever. But it was Davey and Pete Reeves. And I remember my first match in Wildwood Convention Hall. They gave me $100 bill. And the next time I worked for them, they gave me $110. Now,
Nice.
to find out that these guys are, working for hot dogs. And even the Savaldis, as cheap as they were, they only cheated me $40. I still made
great paydays back then. Not like that anymore.
And this here was the scene of me meeting, because we did a couple, like a little loop, a couple shots, and I met there and had the ability to talk to him for more than a minute. Vern Gagne.
Oh.
I met Nick Bockwinkel. I met Dingo Warrior, which is the Ultimate Warrior early, and a bunch of other guys. Nord the Barbarian, who said to me, I was trained by Teddy, who was a boxer. Teddy didn't have wrestling boots. He used boxing boots. And of course, the boxers tie the laces around the top outside. So Nord, every time he moved, you could hear his pill bottles sloshing in his bag, and his eyes were half shut, leaning over on the bench. He goes, "Bro, take your laces and stuff them inside your boots." I was like, okay. So I learned a valuable lesson from a guy who's half shot on pills. But I appreciated it, and I have those pictures. I talked to Vern, and it was a great learning experience. I put the Colonel De Beers over without any offense, which I never, ever did again. I did it once and only once. Now, this is, I think this is AJ. It's either AJ or Doug, his partner. But I think they were the Masked Russians then. I'm not sure.
Right. Not the Super Destroyers yet. Not in blue.
Yeah, right. I keep saying executioners too. That's wrong. But this is, I got to tell you about that picture. Tommy Fierro tells the story years later, after I've known him forever, that I was the catalyst for him, pursuing wrestling. I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, you worked with my brother on that building that you saw earlier. And he told you when he found out you were beginning your career that his little brother was a fanatic." That's the That's the Robert Treat Hotel in Newark, in the ballroom. You could see the decor. So I said, yeah. And I said, come with me. And I dragged him by the arm and I brought him to the window on the 16th floor. You know why? That building was right across the street. And I said, you be down there at 7 o'clock Saturday night and I'll get you in. And because the juice that I had, because I came in with people who knew of me, I was able to walk right in that locker room with a poster and have everybody graciously sign a poster, bring it back out, and give it to Tommy Fierro. Now, Tommy's brother is no longer with us, so I know it holds a special place in his heart. But that picture, Tommy was in that audience right there. It's like,
That's
you can't
great.
make it up. Yeah. And this was just down there on the bottom. Let's see if you recognize that guy's name. He was a photographer. It's not Napolitano, is it?
No, it says I think Carino.
Yeah, I don't know. I always
Carrino.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, it's just, a pose I had seen somebody else do, pointing at the USA. It was kind of cool. Black and white is the only way to go.
It really is.
All right, so this here is Nature Boy Brian Walsh working for Carmine and Mitch. Went up to New England, took the ring truck, and did a loop up there with Davey G, was one of the masked Russians. And I met Brian there.
Around what year was this, Tommy?
This was probably 86, 87. Because it was not long after I broke in. It was almost in the beginning. So Brian Walsh, not unlike many people who like to get color, let's just call them cutters because it's very similar. It's a little bit of a problem because they can't wait and it's the focal point to them. No big deal. He graciously put me over and gave me the junior heavyweight championship for the IWA, which was Kowalski's school and his
Nice.
promotion. And so that was nice, I knew it was only going to last a night, but I'll take it. So when I get back to the locker room after the match, I placed the belt where his gear was. He comes in the locker room, he sees, he goes, Tommy, he says, you got to he had that Irish, take that belt and go outside. Now, this particular building, you can see plenty of other guys that were photographed in front of this wall because it was like zigzag brick wall, right? And it was in this building in Burlington, Vermont, that looked like a small Madison Square Garden. It was round. It had stadium seating, beautiful place. And he said, "You take that belt out there and you get as many pictures as you can, and you never lose an opportunity, even if it's for a day, because you can utilize that." And of course, I have it on my wall, and next to it, so that's my first title, and next to it is my last title. I put those pictures together. So one night, I go to take a shower. I think it was after the first time I worked him. He got color. I go to take a shower, and I'm like, what? It's stinging. Well, he left the blade on his finger for the last 8-10 minutes while we were still working and sliced me up all over. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," with a big smile on his face, But great guy, talented.
I'm sure it was an accident.
Yeah. Oh, no, with him, it was. He was a good dude, did nothing but want to help you. But that's why you got to leave that little end for a friend so you can find that end and put the blade back in there or throw it out. You don't leave it finger.
Just
I always had
it.
Yeah, I always had the ability, as Tony Stetson taught me, to put it back because I don't want to be caught throwing that thing, So I put it back over it. But if you don't tuck the end of the tape in, it gets melted into you can't. Little things that you learn. Yeah, so this is again Gary Capetta. I got to pay him back. The man gave me my first pair of boots, paid for them. So this was something. I think it says MDA, right? Muscular dystrophy. So I went and I did a posing routine, talked to the people and the kids, and that was my way. I would do anything for them, This is my dad getting me ready at the 1985. So this is a little prior. 85 Mr. America competition. I think doesn't matter. This is Asbury Park Convention Hall. I'm working a guy, you might remember him, Don Rock.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay. So I don't even remember who we were working for, but, I just assumed I was going over. I mean, you look at him, you look at me, no big deal. So, so the promoter comes over. I don't remember who it was. He said, what do you got worked out? And we told him. He goes, no. He says, you have to put him over. You went over on the last show. I'm like, all right. But me and Don Rock had already worked out a match. He blew up in about 2 minutes, and he says to me, just go right to your finish. So he let me go over right in the middle of the match. And when the promoter came back, he looked at Don, and Don said, I blew up. What are we going to do? So I didn't have to put too many people over after that. And that was the.
So going backwards here.
Yeah.
What's this here? Going backwards a little bit.
This will be, again, right around the time I was doing wrestling in junior high and high school and weightlifting. So I had to give something up.
Is this a jiu-jitsu?
What's that?
What is that, jiu-jitsu?
That's jiu-jitsu.
Okay, I recognize
I knocked out their first degree black belt. In the back, they used to let us put the gloves on, and he got a little cute because we were told that, take it easy, and he really stiffed me. And I wasn't trying to knock him out, but I stepped in, hit him with a right, knocked him cold. They were like, oh, I'm like, he hit me hard. I hit him back. What do you want me to do? So martial arts was a good thing for me. All right, so we're still, that's, if you can come up, like bring my head up towards the top, and you'll see the magazine at 2 years old. Look, you see it?
Oh, yes, there we go.
Look, there's the bodybuilder doing the lat spread. Can you imagine at 2? Like, I already was infatuated. Crazy. It's not by accident. And this, of course, early in my career, that is Mr. New Jersey, Tommy Cairo, and Antonino Rocca Jr., Ted Petty. So I got to tag with and that's that kid, George Panaha. You remember him? The referee?
Yes.
All right. And this, I'm not sure when this was. I got a funny feeling it looks like Yardville, which would take us a little out of whack. Yeah, this is Yardville.
There we go.
That's fine. We're in good. No, Yardville's post ECW, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, no big deal. We'll adjust. This is just a picture that people should look at and understand that that's why that's why you're able to do what you do. Without those people, you got nothing. And I always had the kids around me, so that was always great. There's the late great Dennis Corluzzo.
Yes,
we'll do these. That's fine.
Okay.
That was in Yardville, and you come up to the next one. That's me dropping an elbow on your boy,
Dark Domino.
Yep, in Full Street
Of
Clothes.
the Misfits.
The Misfits. Yep. And this is in the back of that place, that building, with those crazy people that loved wrestling.
I could tell by that brown paneling on the wall.
Yeah, remember? It was in the hall.
Yardville, yeah, we all took pictures against that.
Yep. At this point, I'm carrying this NWA North American title. And,
Right.
Thanks to Dennis, who put me in a bunch of matches with Dan Severn. Post ECW, I didn't have any trouble getting work because I actually got work based off of what I did there. So it was great. Look at that, man. That's beautiful.
There's another with Derek.
Now, yep. And here's the one with the no blue mats. And you wonder why you can't walk. Okay.
Exactly. Or you have to have surgery now because there
ring,
just wasn't enough protection.
No. And if you look at that ring, it's one of the highest rings you'll ever work in. So that didn't help.
Okay.
Yeah, so here we are. Go scroll back up. I want to show you that picture on the right. No, too far. The next set. Right there, where it says +6. That picture is Johnny Candido, White Lotus, Bowles Mahoney, John Rickner, myself, and James Pillman. James Pillman and Lotus were both trained by Heidi Lee's father, Noopy. And, Johnny Candido, when they were allowing him to get in the ring, and his family just put the kibosh on it. We're not losing another. Chris wasn't dead yet, but they didn't like the business, and I guess they had a little foresight. And sure enough, they made him get out. Yeah, that was at our training center. 2 rings in there. This is also post ECW. This would have been at the Eddie Gilbert Memorial Show, wherever that was, and that's Domino and I. And on the caption it says, "There's not much you can do when someone's superplexing you on the floor, but Domino at least could stick his fingers in Cairo's mouth." I guess you could say left a bad taste in Cairo's mouth.
He was always doing some kind of weird stuff.
Yeah, but see, this is the hot shot, isn't it? Is that what this is?
Yes.
Okay, so Bob Smith was working for that group of, conglomerate of magazines. He made sure he got me in everything. Magazine article, introducing, hot shot, best bet. And that was big for me because, people saw it like I did, like you did watching as kids and getting the magazines. I lived my childhood, my teen years in the black and white pages of wrestling magazines. So, to be in there now.
To be a hot shot, it's an honor. Right.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I ain't complaining. All right. So this is, we're going to have to make sure we cover everything because we skipped a couple of years, but that's okay. That was Danny Hodge and myself at the Grace Hotel in Shinyaka, no, I can't even remember how you say it, but in Japan, outside of Tokyo. And I don't know who knows this, but the older guys will know, the more seasoned guys will know. He was famous for dropping H-bombs. That's halcyon. And if you drop it in someone's drink, they're out. Okay. And they used to do that as a rib.
Surely.
So me having this information and being, stuck in a freaking hotel room, the smog was so bad there. You had to stay in a house, stay in an apartment. So, there wasn't much to do. They brought us over days before our big match, and you didn't have much to do. So either Dan Severn and I would go up and move the chairs off the carpeted area of the ballroom and roll around on the floor, or we would go on the fitness trails they had. But when you got back, there was no gimmick. We didn't have anything to, recreate. So I thought to myself, well, I know he's got to have them. So I went over there and I knocked on his door and he said, "Come in." We start talking and I go, "Bro, could you help somebody out with a couple of H-bombs?" And he looks at me and he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "No, listen, I respect you. You're a great man, but I know you're holding halcyons." Well, he cracked a smile and he went ahead and gifted me a couple. And at least I was able to make them last and, pass out because you couldn't sleep at night. The high-powered motorcycles all night. So that was a blessing. Anyway.
And then we got
Nick Bockwin. Total gentleman, I mean, he really was the image, like at the same time, Hogan was. You couldn't compare the two because this guy dressed in a suit, and here's Vern. Vern was another guy. He was just, couldn't be any nicer. He saw my singlet and he inquired about my wrestling, but because I didn't go beyond junior high, I didn't say anything really. Now, this is my dad, my late dad, myself, and Doc Diamond, the St. Mary's Church in Manahawkin, which you may have worked there. Tom Rumsby used to run there. That's where we were, running one of my first few shows with Phil for Force One Pro Wrestling. And I was back there, paying people, and my dad was with me, and there's Doc. When he found out that I keep that picture in my room where you can see it, he was so flattered. I'm like, "Of course, Doc, you're represented in my room any day, you're on my lifetime achievement wall for sure." So great guy,
Sure.
Always paid me top dollar. Yep.
See, we got
Go back.
come back to you and Derek Domino here a little bit.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, I got
Lots of color there.
Yep. I got to tell this quick. So my mother's coming to this show. She never comes. So I tell her, Ma, go sit up way up in the top of the bleachers on the end where there's no people. Okay. I go in the back. I grab Domino, and you know that little window they usually have coming out of the gym. It's like got the wire mesh in it. It's just a little window like this. I said,
Right.
Come over here. He says, what? I go, look up there. You see that lady way up there by herself? No, cuz you already knew. I said, here's what's going to happen. We're going to spill out of the ring like we always do. We're the furniture movers. What did Luke say? Move some furniture. We don't have to waste any time. Let's get outside. I'm going to drag you up there. And on the way, I'm going to grab anything I can. You already have color. I'll be busting you in the head. And when I get you up there, I'm going to run you up and get right in front of my mother. And I'm going to smash your head with a can. And I'm going to beat you all the way back down. So this is the return trip back down. And you can see I got him on the stands. And there's my mother up there, right? So after the show, I went to see her. She's half crying and half laughing. She says, I didn't raise you to be like this. And I was like, yes. You know, if I could get my mother to say that, then I must be doing something right. She thought I was nuts, you know. I was already bumping in the house when she would hit me. I'd fly across the room for drama.
Oh, boy.
Now, this is post ECW also.
Okay, we'll go back to ECW. Actually, we're filling in the time after ECW right now, so just move. You know,
you know who I was working for? You know who Bad Attitude was?
Yes, of course.
Two brothers, the big guys, and they had a falling out. And interestingly enough, after a few years after I worked on a boardwalk for Gary Capetta, Dennis Corluzzo was running a show at the convention hall. And we were working for Darren and his brother. At first, Luke was involved, and another little outside arena up the street. And that's the night we went and took back the Doc's belts, is the NWA tag belts.
Oh,
Dennis had them. We walked into their show. We took the jitney down there, walked in, and I took the belt right off the table and started making my way back down. All of a sudden, I hear the cop car. Brr. Told him the story. He goes, nonetheless, you got to return it. Doc was just so tickled to death. I just walked in here and took that belt right off the table. You know, not knowing I was going to end up working for Dennis, but that's the way it was back then. You know, so that was a funny story. And you know, again, you know, I wound up working for Dennis after ECW, and he took care of me. This is at the Outlaws, which would be at the tail end of my career, and still promoted after that. But we brought wrestling to the Tropicana. Co-promoted with the WWF. They would do their convention on I don't remember how it worked, but during the day, and then we did the night show. So the trifold flyer for that has WWF on it and our Outlaws on it. So that was a big deal to have that. You know, it's nice to have it. So yeah, Tropicana was a blast. I'm going to touch on it since we were there. And I got to book all my friends. They all had a couple nights in the hotel free. You know, I was running a health club, and I met the owner, and he says, yeah, I heard you wrestle. He goes, why don't you run something here? I said, to be honest with you, I was going to ask you, but I was going to wait until my 90-day whatever is over, because I don't want, if that goes south, the wrestling goes south, I don't want to lose this job. He goes, nah, that won't happen. I used to go down to the beach. Cousin Luke would come down. Pat Tanaka would come down, file a phony report that he got camera equipment stolen.
Patrick,
so one day,
with his stories.
One day I'm sitting at the desk, right? Here comes Patrick, because he would come and work out. You know, he would visit me. So he says, I'll be right back. I got to run this down to the legal department. He had like a folder in his hand. I go, what's up? He goes, nah, you know, the camera equipment I got stolen. You know, and he gave me the offer. I'm like, all right. So here at my place of business, where I work, you're coming under my jurisdiction, but that was Pat. You know what I mean? So, you know, we make excuses for some people, and we probably shouldn't. But so
here we got this Power Sports Production LLC. Now this was NWA Coastal, right?
That was Yes, it was NWA was One Nation was something that we were holding on to that we were going to create later. But we
The Outlaws of Wrestling.
Yes, and Outlaws was the Tropicana, and
Mm-hmm.
the NWA was what I did with Freddie and Phil. So
Okay.
we put those. It was nice to have that logo. Now this is wow. There's Dick Worley, the sweetest man I ever met. And when he met my wife for the first time, he said to her, I said, Dick, I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Alba. So he looked at me, he looked at her. He says, "You're married to this guy?" She said, "Yep." He goes, "My condolences."
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if people in other, areas of life have this, but there's no greater compliment than he could have given me by saying that, because you can only say that to about or to people that you have a certain relationship with. All that means is he loves you to death when he says that. That's not a knock, that's a
Right.
knock by somebody who doesn't know you enough to say that. Not him, the man. That guy is no better man. So I found out after he passed, in a post I responded to, and it was his daughter. So she got me a messenger, and she said, "I didn't really necessarily worried about putting it out there, but I wanted to let you know, in case you didn't, my father loved you. He thought the world of you. Every time he came home for a show that you were on, boy, that Tommy Carr, every time I see him, he gets better. Now, there's a good guy. There's a guy that's not going to let this business, ruin him." I was like, I wanted to cry, because what a fine man, and stood only 5'3", but it felt like he was 6'6". One of those guys that could pull it off. The best. And this is at a convention where I met Mighty Mike Kimmel. You know who that is? Mike Marvel. Anyway, he's an author, an actor, very smart guy, and he took that picture. That was very much in the beginning. This is not too long ago. That's Little Guido, Tommy Rich, and myself. And as you know, our debut match for ECW was with Damian Stone, aka Little Guido. I taught him how to make the blade that Tony taught me how to make in my apartment down in Little Egg Harbor, where we stayed while we were going to Philly. So I brought him around, everywhere we went. Now, this is funny. This shows a like-minded attitude. Look at the pursed lips. Neither one of us, we didn't say to each other, "Well, purse your lips." That's the picture. And look at that. Isn't that funny?
Right. It is.
You know what? I'm a badass. I don't
Very
have to say
similar.
it. I don't have to say it. Look at my face.
Oh, what's this?
Yes. All right, so here's what happened. In my town, they were putting in a new muffler shop, Speedy Muffler King. They advertised the legendary Bruno Sammartino will be making an appearance for the grand opening. Wow, nothing was going to keep me from going. This is maybe a year or two before I broke in. So I get there, nobody shows up but me. An hour and a half I sat there with Bruno, just shooting the breeze, and then years later, after I'd been in the business and worked at Sun, I saw him, and I said, "Do you remember, young kid?" And he looks at me, I know you look familiar. At the muffler shop in Belleville, I came to meet you. He goes, "Yes, I remember. And you're in the business now." I said, "Yes, and I pinned your son last night."
I bet he loved to hear that.
Yeah, well, Dennis put me over, Now, these are the kind of people we had access to. That is Carl Von Hess and Lee, his wife. They owned Carl Lee Motor Park, which was motorhomes and trailer park. We would go there and sit with him and go in his spare room where he had all his stuff. And every time we went, he did the same thing, and he pulled stuff out and always gave us something. I have something here. I got to put it up. It's an old poster of him. And he told me the story about they used to sleep under the ring. So instead of getting a hotel, and they didn't want anybody to see them by sleeping on the ring. So quietly, after they washed up after the match, they go under the ring and they sleep under there and get up in the morning and leave. So we had him at our disposal, and he was just, yeah. We honored him at the Outlaws shows. Yep. He couldn't even, keep him straight. He was crying. It was great. Billy Robinson on the in the plane going to Tokyo, another one of the guys we had access to over there. He put up with my drunken shenanigans on the plane and let me put him in an armbar. You can see the smile on his face. And he also was the one who found my missing passport. So apparently it slid underneath my seat when the plane was going up. This is fast forward to 2000. This is the Outlaws of Wrestling. This is Ted Petty, Rocco Rock. So it was Public Enemy against the Pitbulls. So yes, and here's another big name. You got Buddy Landell. So our cars were stacked. We had everybody. If they weren't signed to a major group and I knew them, they were there. John Cronus, my absolute best buddy who I miss dearly. Now, on the right, we said this last time, on the right in that corner is a person that I'm sure people would know if they could get it. You can't get more of that picture, can you?
No.
That's Trent Acid behind me.
Okay.
Yeah. So not only did we have, the best of the experienced guys, we had the stars that were yet to come. And here's me and Cronus. We got charged a lot of money because they were charging like $250 for a broken table. And,
and with all that blood, I'm sure they had fun charging.
Yep.
Look at that.
I miss him. Quick story. I'm working for Panzerino and Gino Moore, and we're backstage, and John's smoking a cigarette, and Gino goes off and hollered. I stood up. I go, "You fat piece of shit! You couldn't carry his jock strap. Who do you think you are talking to him like that?" But John was like a child, meek. He didn't care. Okay, I'm like, no way is he getting away with that.
Very innocent-minded.
Yes. And here's that's me addressing the audience. And then this is Missy and little Jeannie Durso. And we actually turned on her and beat her down. And this is after, I got, knocked out. And here we are again, It was a good time there. Now, this is also at the truck. Go back. That's Cousin Luke on the right. My dearest, best friend in the business. He didn't ever do anything but put me up there on top, pay me top dollar. Great guy. All right, coming up, you'll see me and little Guido outside the ring. You remember that ref right there? I forget his name.
No, I actually don't. I actually don't remember that one.
Yeah, that was also post ECW.
Okay. So that was, let's see, 7, 8. There we go.
All right. Post ECW. I don't know where that was, but that looked for me, especially with the dog collar, the bald head, and the goatee. That's
from this here to that.
Yeah, right. But that's the real me. That's my gimmick for wrestling, right there. Most comfortable in that, and tend to be heelish. I got meaner as I got older. Right there is Williamtown, New Jersey. Dennis Corluzzo, supposed tournament final match for the NWA North American title against Devin Storm, and we did it up. Here's some locker room shenanigans with none other than Domino, one of my favorite opponents to work. This piece of crap right here.
Yeah, we could get back to that. Actually,
you know what? If I'd have known what I know now, even with my own experiences with him, what he did later on, I would have finished him right there. I had him. I could have squeezed the life right out of him.
So many of us wish that we could turn back time. Here's some more shenanigans with Dark Domino.
Yeah. That's cool,
Mm-hmm.
Mike V. Mike V made all the belts for ECW. He made the North American belt. He was very tight with Alex Rizzo, Dick Dudley, and he disappeared. He has that agoraphobia, like he can't leave the house. And then when Alex died, that was it. He disappeared. This is a moonsault onto Ian Rotten, and you recognize
Incredible.
that ceiling that's in Yardville.
Great shot.
Thank you. I like that. This is me, metamorphosed into, more of a heel. And this is again working with, you can see the T-shirt, working with the Darren and his brother. Who
Bad
incidentally had
attitude.
a falling out, never talked to each other. And this is 1995 when the Cauliflower Alley convention came to New York. And I'm not bragging, but honestly, I was a little blown away. I was outside the ballroom, sitting in the, standing in the entranceway, for no other reason. I'm not kidding. I got more people come up to me like I was, this big deal and talk to me and talk like, I'm like, wow, it was awesome. But this is the way you represent yourself. This is the way the old guys did it. That's me and Dan Severn. Thanks go to.
Was that's for Dennis, right? NWA, New Jersey.
So when I left ECW, I immediately got work with Dennis. And they threw the belt in the garbage and all that. So now he says, I want to do something for you. So we're gonna make you the North American champion, and then you'll have non-title matches against Dan Severn because you're over in Japan with him. You're friendly with him. It was before he learned to work. He didn't learn. He has to give a little something. This ain't the UFC, and you have to give us credibility by selling some of our stuff that we use. So you see, I'm on top of him with my forearm in his face because I was not going to let him tell me how to do a business that I know how to do because he don't know that business. You got to listen to me here. You can't just go in and take me out like you do in MMA. It's not like that. So yeah, he learned after he gave me a hard time with Phyllis, that woman Phyllis. So yeah, this is
Phyllis Lee.
This is what you had at your disposal. I could go down to the art department at any time prior to the shows there and tell them what I wanted, and this is what they came up with. If I didn't like it, they change it, and they did everything. Light boxes, billboards on the highway with my arm on it. They were good. It's nice to have a resource like that. And not only that, we had what's called a 4-wall deal. And I waltzed down to the bank down there, and they promptly handed me $80,000 in cash to go pay everybody. Okay, which I wasn't paying that much, but paid everybody good, and we had a loaded card, and we went up in with 80 grand and made up the envelopes. I'm like, wow, that's how it was. They don't do that too much anymore. Right here, mentor, one of my idols. I got off the phone with him a little while ago, and in reference to being a guest of ours and being interviewed at some point, he said I would be flattered. Oh. Well, you know what? I'm blown away. If
Me
Davey
too.
is flattered, see, I never lost that.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yes. Just the best. Quick story. I'm working South Mountain Arena. I changed my shift because I knew the wrestling was going to be there. They accommodated me. And Dave Yohanan's in the hallway. They had these benches and rubber in the hallway for you to put take your skates off and on. So he's got his foot up on it. He's got his bag over his shoulder. And here comes this kid who apparently announced himself as, well, I don't know if he was his fan club president. And he said, I want to show you something. And he pulled out what had to be one of the first sheets ever. And he said, look at this. You're top 20. You made the top 20 in the world. Like me sitting there and hearing that, what it meant was most people would know that he was a jobber, know him as somewhat a competitive one with offense usually. But they didn't know, like Java Rook was Johnny Rods. Johnny Rods was low end here, but when he was Java Rook in California, he was the America's champion. Davey was the same way. When they left the area, they were bigger, bigger stars. They were given a bigger part of the program and higher up on the card. A guy by the name of Butcher Joe Noda. He's an Italian guy, wrestled for Vince on the prelims. Over there, he became Butcher Brannigan and was America's champion. So these guys had careers outside of WWF, but nobody knew it because it's not like today. You weren't going to see wrestling from Japan. Davey was one of those guys that went to Japan, you know, like Mike Masters or Rocky Jones. You know Rocky Jones?
Yes.
He was another mid-card guy who fought Tatsumi Fujinami. So when these guys left, they often were a big deal. But I knew that without knowing they went there to be a big deal, because I could see through the facade that most of the guys that were putting guys over were better than the guys they were putting over. Now, those boots, right? I want to tell you a quick story.
We have our friend Mitch there.
Yep.
Mitch Seinfeld.
Yep.
Our good friend there.
One of the youngest promoters ever. So if you go back to the boots, right? They were made by Stagecoach, and I had them made when I was working at the Tropicana in 2000. So I didn't get to use them very much after that. That's why they're in such good shape. But you'll see later when I went to Tommy Fierro's show and I found out they wanted us to do a little something in the ring, I did the same thing I did when I couldn't afford it. Way back when, my wife said, "You ain't going unless you got the right gear. Get it, keep it nice, and whatever it is, we'll pay for it, because otherwise don't do it." And I always did that. So what I did was when Tommy invited us, that's the event, I had a pair of pants made, the shiny ones, that match those boots exactly. And,
nice.
You know, my wife's not surprised that I got those made for one event, because I'm not going out there looking like a rag. You know, it's bad enough I'm old and I'm crippled. I'm going there looking right. And that's
They're
what
great
these guys got
boots.
to learn today.
Great looking boots.
Yeah, they're awesome. That's what these guys got to learn today. If you have,
and who are these guys here, Tommy?
Oh, this is
that Steve Lawrence in there?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, my one of my students, Josh Adams, trains people at that Adrenaline Sports Complex in Bayville, New Jersey. So they invited me down, and I watched them work and do what they were going to do. And when it was over, you know, the owner, I don't know his name, was gracious, said, "Tommy, can you talk to the kids?" I said, "Absolutely." And the number one thing I tell these guys, mostly if there's not a girl there, when they ask for like some kind of general tip or advice for life, I said, yes, it's a man's nature, most wild young guys, to try to conquer anything and everything. But I'll tell you this, don't go out of your way to conquer anything. If it comes to you, you make a decision whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. But remember this, you push the envelope, you're going to see stuff that you can't unsee. And that's not an easy thing when you have a family. The more you know about the evil that lurks in the heart of men, the more worried you are for your family. And
of course,
you don't want to tell your family those things because they should never have to hear it. So that's what I tell them. Don't look to conquer everything. Slow your roll. Think as much before you make a decision, and always look. I was told by an electrician, the key to being good at this job is to look 3 and even 4 steps ahead. So if you know you got to leave this area to go do a little job, think about every single thing that might happen, that could happen, or that you're going to need, so you don't have to run back and forth. Good advice, you know.
So we're looking at the Independent Wrestling Lifetime Achievement Award you got from ISPW and Tommy Fierro several months back. So there goes that. Very nice award there. And some people you received the award with here.
There you are.
Mike Kalua, Sunny Beach, Tommy Cairo, and Ray Odyssey in this picture. All receiving Lifetime Achievements Award there and looking great.
You know what's unique about that is it's not just 4 random guys that worked around the same time. We all worked together at one time or another. So it was great to be sitting there lacing up our boots all these years later. It was great.
There goes one with Andrew Anderson and Ray Odyssey.
Yeah, Andrew Anderson told me a few years ago when we went to Docs to get awards, I was scared to death of you. He goes,
really?
I knew it's a work. He goes, but man, the intensity that you carried around with you, and I'm like, what? I'm oblivious. You hated me? He goes, bro, everybody was scared of you. I'm like, cool. Maybe it's because I worked with Manny for 2 years.
Maybe.
And who's
Okay.
that? That's Mrs. Peaches all these years later.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Lori.
Peaches.
That's Lori, yeah.
All right, Lori. Where was this?
Hamburg Fieldhouse.
All right.
About 6 months ago.
Oh, here goes the tights, Tommy.
Yeah, there's the pants. See the IM for Iron Man. That's my design.
Nice.
Lucha. Lucha. The guy was so great. When I called him and told him how pleased I was, he was like, oh, so happy. And here's me, the last time in the ring, and for the first time in over 20 years. I'm not looking too bad.
Look
I
great.
had abs. Nobody else did.
Right.
Most of those guys are twice as young as me. But again, here goes the proof. I bought those pants for one show. I go to these events. I gotta hope I sell pictures. I'm not in it for the money, but I can't be because I spend more on something new to wear to go to the thing. So that's what these young guys have to think about. They have to think about, how you present yourself. Listen, if you're training and you're gonna break in shortly, don't break in unless you got your gear. Just wait. Don't be another guy in kick pads and amateur shoes and the whole 9 yards.
So
it's going to change if. Go ahead.
we're going to move on to ECW.
Okay.
We're rolling up on an hour and a half here.
Yep.
So quickly,
Yeah,
let me get
there's stuff we gotta cover on that.
to us. Okay, to stream. Okay.
All right. So intro to ECW.
First off, yeah, I want to read this article from Ring the Damn Bell that I found.
Yep.
And this says, in 1993, when the ECW was just beginning, Tommy Cairo was extremely, no pun intended, instrumental in help shaping how ECW's wrestling style would be different compared to the other mainstream federations. Cairo was originally aligned with the Sandman and helped assist Sandman in his feud with Jason Knight. The friendship ended with a temporary blinded Sandman accidentally hit Peaches, Sandman's wife. Cairo went to the aid of Peaches. As Sandman began to regain his sight, he saw Cairo helping Peaches to her feet and attacked Cairo, thinking Tommy knocked down Peaches. This is what brought the Singapore Cane into the ECW and put the Sandman over as its master. For the next year, their feud was what legends were made of.
Awesome.
So that's Ring the Damn Bell. And we have another one here that's only a portion of it's just a portion, but I'm going to read it anyway. Here we go. Entering to Queen's famous We Will Rock You anthem, Tommy Cairo joined Eastern Championship Wrestling in 1993 as one of the most popular grapplers in the local area. That year, he won a battle royal to become the NWA Pennsylvania Heavyweight Champion, a title he held for nearly 3 months. In ECW, he became an ally of the Sandmans by forming a tandem to battle Jason, known as the sexiest man alive, but the pairing soon crumbled when Cairo became involved with Sandman's wife, Peaches. Now, this was a quote. I don't know if Tommy Cairo finds this interesting or not. This is from Paul Heyman, Wonder to WWE Classics. But the fact that he'll go down in history as a Sandman's foil is quite ironic because going into their storyline, Tommy Cairo was one of the hottest wrestlers in the Northeast independent scene. One would think a rivalry between Cairo and the Sandman would be designed to spotlight Tommy Cairo. But the Sandman was our star on the rise. Less than 2 weeks after a widely discussed caning of an American citizen in Singapore in 1994, Cairo and the Sandman faced off in a Singapore caning match. The two brawlers had several more matches involving the canes throughout the year, including their most famous, a dueling canes match at the first Heat Wave event in 1994. The man who became known, nicknamed Pay Your Bills, which is great, was also the catalyst of the famous rivalry between the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer. but it was Cairo's matches with the hardcore icon that revolutionized Extreme Rules for wrestling. It was a turning point in ECW regarding just how far we're going to take our very non-PG rated content, Heyman said. How's that for a diplomatic way to phrase that?
Well, unbeknownst to me, he said some positive things. So I think what we should do, how much time do you think how much longer you want to go? Because I can gauge it, what I want to say.
Okay, if you just want to kind of wrap up the ECW stuff, and I will go through some pictures as we go along.
Okay, so basically, that's my favorite, that black and white with us swinging the canes. Here's the truth, which you probably never heard it accurately. As when they chronicle ECW, they usually start at Tommy Dreamer. There are a couple exceptions, but you have to dig hard to find them. So,
this is you versus Eddie Gilbert.
Yep.
You and Glenn Osborne versus Eddie Gilbert. Here's an early one of you and Lloyd.
Yes, Lloyd. Yep.
And then here's you and Ivan Koloff.
Yep. He was great. Put me over twice. A gentleman. Yep, look at that. It was awesome.
With the chain wrapped around your head. Great shot.
Yep. That's one of my favorite pictures.
You and
say, why do you show so many pictures with you at a disadvantage? When you see a picture of me at a disadvantage, it's with a guy who's a legend. So I'm happy to show that the Iron Sheik put me in the camel clutch. I'm glad to show Ivan Koloff whipping me with the chain. I even added my weight to make the chain tighter. So it's an honor to work with these guys. That's why a picture of me being choked by Ivan, to me, is more valuable than a picture of me, over him. This was right around the beginning of ECW. Damian Stone is on the other page. We debuted at the Philadelphia Sports Bar and shocked Todd Gordon. We got a standing ovation. It was awesome. That's the night that Tony Stetson showed me how to make a blade the right way. Here's me with the Pennsylvania title. It's me and Snuka. Next to that was some Japan stuff, which I was doing while I was in ECW, which they were not very happy about, resulting in a match with Kevin Sullivan, called a shoot match, but he beat me in 3 minutes by knocking me out with the ring bell. So that was Paulie's twisted way of saying, oh, you're doing shoot wrestling? So you're doing shoot wrestling, but we're not. I'll show you shoot wrestling. Okay. See the double size of my fist? I should have maybe, gave him one. Now, Kevin was good, but he liked me, and he should have said, let's not do that, Paul, because a lot of Paul's stuff and angles were just, for his own enjoyment and to knock other people.
Humiliate people,
other people.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So here's you and Hack in a nice black and white photo.
I love that. That's what old wrestling looks like. I like that. Let's see what else we got. More the same, beaten with the cane. I was numb to it after a while. And there was a kid that reviewed our Singapore Kenny match. You should have heard this guy. They were like, he was out of control about how vicious it was, and it was. We made it look real by being. We were swinging those. We weren't holding back swinging those canes, because guess what? It's made of freaking rattan. You're 240 pounds of muscle. That thing's not going to really hurt you unless you get poked somewhere, and we'll have to touch that on that too, because it can be a dangerous weapon when it's used in areas it's not meant to be used in. And
here's the result of the caning, and you and Peaches here.
Yeah, and I got to tell how this, the whole not telling the truth. And this picture here, this is part of what Paulie's presentation was after that Michael Fay got caned in Singapore. He addressed the locker room and wanted volunteers to do a bunch of angles using the cane, kendo stick, and he made it a point to say, you'll have to get color on almost all the matches, and it won't just be your head. So, nobody raised their hand but me and Sandman. So when people want to take credit for what we did, I get upset. That's the answer, is that he asked for volunteers. Nobody did. We raised our hands, and they weren't drinking the Kool-Aid yet, the whole locker room. So they came up to us after we volunteered and said, well, what is he going to ask you to do next? Maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But they all continued for 20 years with the hardcore style. So, the truth is, I lay claim, Tommy Dreamer, the innovator of violence. I think he's the innovator of garbage.
Pardon.
And we had been doing a year of this before Tommy Dreamer got involved. Okay. And we cooked the food, we set the table, and they sat down to dinner.
So after your feud with, your whole pairing with Peaches and your feud with the Sandman, then things evolved from then.
Yep.
And the whole storyline is somehow Lori Peaches was with Tommy Dreamer, which is a match here we're not going to show, but
right.
it's there. It was a mixed tag team match that we had, and this was after my introduction as the Virgin Princess Angel.
Yeah, you
also
can see that promo on YouTube.
So after I was introduced as the Virgin Princess Angel, who is interfering in your relationship and whatever you had going with Peaches, then we had how many matches? Let's see.
Not too many.
Not too many. Here's us from Hamburg Fieldhouse.
Oh, it's my favorite picture.
That's a good one. And that night, I don't know, Peaches didn't show up. So I was training Francine at the ECW arena at the time. So I wanted her to work, and I flipped out on Paul. I was like, I really wanted her to work, yelled at him and everything. Ended up giving her the tights that I was going to wear. And I wore some shabby looking tights. And there goes us at the end of the match. You're pulling Francine off of me there. That was one of her first matches, I believe.
She must have not made a big impression on me, because as I told you, I don't ever remember being in the same ring with her.
Yeah, I do
right?
recall you saying that. And then we got into our match, which was yourself and me, the Iron Man, Tommy Cairo, and the Virgin Princess Angel, with the Sandman and Woman versus Cactus Jack and Tommy Dreamer. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so basically, I didn't know a lot of what was going on that was negative regarding yourself, but that was by design, because they knew if I'd have known, there would have been some payback. I would never allow some of the stuff that went on if I was privy to it, but we weren't. I was left out of that, and as we'll see, they had a habit, Paul and company, of going off script and going into business for themselves and forgetting that it's a work and changing things without letting everybody involved know. So while I'm selling outside the ring, doing what I'm supposed to do, but let me say this. First of all, you should never, ever have to worry about going into a wrestling ring and somebody going into business for themselves. It's a work, guys. You're there to work together. When you leave the other people out of your plan, you're just being a complete idiot. So I didn't know. So to wrap up and to get to where you're getting at, the end of the match, as we all agreed, would be Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, caning me in the head. I got some color, and that was the end of the match, as we all knew it, as we all understood. Well, at the end of the match, instead of, me just getting the color and leaving the ring, being stretchered out, Tommy Dreamer went and picked up the cane. I'm sorry, first, initially, you'll see here in this picture, he came over to me and kicked me in my face. Okay, you can see that, right? Very unnecessary. Didn't know that this was going on. So then he takes the cane and lifts my legs up in the air, as you can see there.
with the cane in position. I figured at that point I would go with it. I wasn't told it was going to be done, but I would go with it anyway. You know, no one had done this before. No one had done cane shots to the crotch. I didn't know how it would affect me or how it would turn out, but I was willing to go with it. I knew it would hurt, but I was not expecting exactly what happened. Now, to just explain this a little bit, Tommy, you know, when you get hit by the cane, it's got a pullback on your skin, like
Well,
it did.
what happens
So,
is when it hits, it spreads. Before it comes back, it pinches.
right. Okay. So Tommy Dreamer proceeds to open my legs up and cane me as hard as he could in my private area. And he went down with it, which hurt, but then he pulled it up, which then pulled up some skin. So I was terribly injured by this, and for months at a time.
But tell them what he said.
He picked up the microphone and said, "We're the ones who burst her cherry."
All right, now think about that. That's pre-planned, and what it is
and pre-planned. They told me, Paul told me, don't wear underwear before the match.
What?
And I'm trying to figure out, well, why wouldn't I wear underwear? And now I know.
Well, that was designed for their pleasure or whatever, to make you not the virgin princess angel. That's why he made that statement. So he's not smart enough to come up with that last minute on the run.
Absolutely not.
Planned ahead of time.
And the thing is after that, that was in December. So, you know, I was going to, I went backstage and I was like, is this normal to Jason? And he was like, that's terrible. I showed Paul. Paul said it was probably fucked up like that to begin with, you know, making some more comments about it. So then I stayed as long as I could to take pictures and whatever. And when the pain was just too bad, I had Jason, who was supposed to be bringing me to the hospital, bring me to my parents' house. And, you know, my dad saw what was going on. He brought me to the hospital. He made me promise not to go back there again. And I didn't. And I actually got to stay with them for a good 6 weeks, from December to about February or so, mid-February. And after promising not to go back, I went ahead and Paul called me and said, bring your wedding dress. I got something for you in February, months later. So by that time, I was injured. I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything. I gained a massive amount of weight, and we're talking like over 60 pounds or so. So I didn't fit in that little dress that I fit in previous. So I had to go out and buy a wedding dress, and I snuck my way over there, you know, to please him and, you know, his demands. And I get there and I'm put in an angle with, for some reason, Jason and the Pitbulls and Jason the Terrible. And that, and if anyone saw it, it was the issue with the situation with Hack Myers. And I had no reason to be there. Hack Myers, I couldn't even get in the ring because I could barely walk, and, you know, from the injury. And Hack Myers was to give me a pile driver. As
and
you
I
can
still
see
didn't
here.
know any of this.
Well, Hack didn't know. No, I wasn't a big complainer, so I wasn't telling everyone my business. But as you can see there, I couldn't get in the ring at first. And then once I did, after the first few punches or whatever, he went to pile drive me, and I couldn't even lift my legs up in the air. I was so injured. So my legs ended up collapsing over the top of my head and hurting my neck really bad. So, and after that, the audience sang their Na 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 Goodbye song. And that's when I knew that it was pretty much planned for me to leave. And that was my exit out. So that's how I left ECW. And then, you know, you were gone in December, and then I was gone in February, 2 months after that. Just because I guess they injured me and didn't feel need to have me around.
You know, just by the statement that he made, this is low life, scum of the earth, deviant, criminal behavior by a man.
You know what, Tommy? We're going to get to that and a lot more in future episodes of Wrestling Rewind. And also, we have our show our new show coming up, Wrestling Archives. So we hope that you'll all join us for that. And I hope that you join my interview with Tommy Cairo and got to know everything you've ever wanted to know. And look forward to our interviews coming up here on Wrestling Rewind, and hope that you'll join us back very soon. Thank you, Tommy, for that in-depth interview. It was great. And until next time, have a great night and a great life. Good night.